everyone.
Phenomenal.
Welcome to our second Innovators Toolkit. Our first one a couple weeks ago now, Natalie Marcotulio, and now we have another Natalie, Natalie Foley. Welcome to Innovators Toolkit, and thank you so much for joining us. Natalie is was a psychology major at William & Mary, and she graduated class of 2000, so 20 years. And Natalie was just telling me how she was really close and still is really close to her freshman hallmates, which is something that I know a lot of us can relate to, and I'm definitely missing mine right now. So here's a little piece of William & Mary and also of Pure Insight, where she is CEO. And she is going to teach us a little bit today about design thinking and how she's used that at Pure Insight and in life, and how we can kind of hone our skills in that area while we're at home, social distancing and quarantining and all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. And thank you to everybody who's going to watch this at some point too. I just have a lot of empathy for where you are right now. And know that your whole tribe is behind you, thinking of you at this really unique moment. And this is the time to really feel like we're together in this. So thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend with me, and I'll share a little bit about design thinking with you. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Sonia, tell me if this looks weird to you or it's coming across strange.
Sure.
And we will get started. Okay.
So
I'll give it a second to kind of get pulled up. Awesome. Okay, so what I would love for y'all to learn in these whatever 20 minutes or so that we're going to talk is a little bit about what is design thinking. And some of y'all, and apologize for the y'all, I'm from Louisiana, and it still hasn't gone away after all these years. But design thinking has become a popular term. And so some of you might already know it, some of you might be new to it. So I'll share a little about what we've come to think of it, the definition of it as. And then also share a little bit about how our clients think of it as different. So we get to serve big organizations and private sector and nonprofits, and helping them kind of take ideas and insights and turn them into reality, into new services and new products for the people that they serve. And so I'll tell you a little bit how they absorb design thinking and what they think of it, how it's different for them. And then I'll show you an example in action. So that's where the in action comes up. Like, this sounds good in theory, but what does it really look like when a company uses this toolkit too? So off we go. But first, I wanted to kind of get you in a mindset of design thinking. I know sometimes when you're probably watching video after video, it's just helpful to sort of take a hot second and step back. So what I want you to do to kind of warm up is grab a piece of paper and a pen, wherever you have around, and answer this question for me. And I say, after I say the question, just pause the video, write your stuff down, and then kind of unpause it. And I'll give you a little bit of time. But essentially, the question I have for you about this picture is, what is happening in this picture? So just take a minute or so, just get some stuff down, pause it and do it. And then when you come back, I've done this a couple times. This was actually an exercise, kind of a little exercise and lesson activity that I did in my MBA class where I first learned about design thinking, and it's really stuck with me, so I wanted to share it. But some of the questions answers that I typically get when I ask folks to answer this question is, there's a big earthquake and the shoes are everywhere, and so these guys have to sort them all out, or they're having a flash sale and everybody's been carrying for a particular size of the shoes. So you kind of tend to get answers like that, which are great. But what the answers really have in common most of the time is that they're very interpretive. They're not actually observational. And so the question that was posed was, what's happening in the picture? And that's something to answer with your senses, right? What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? In this case, we only have one sense that we can really operate with. But what we are observing in this picture, what's happening in this picture is there's brown and black shoes on the floor. It looks like these are two gentlemen, and they seem to be crouching down. There's a mirror in the background. These are things that we can observe. But what we've been taught in school, which is great and that helps us survive and thrive, is to put interpretation on almost everything we see and put analysis on top of everything we see. And again, that helps us really succeed actually in life and in class. But it also is not always helpful in really being able to see and uncover new possibilities, which is a big part of design thinking. Is it starts with observing and really being present and having sort of a beginner's mind, as we say, when we come to observe a situation. These are just random people with shoes, but imagine if I asked you a question that actually had to do with your major or something that you knew something about, then it's even worse in terms of analysis and sharing out loud. But that's just kind of a warm-up that I wanted to share with you, and a big principle that design thinking rests on. Okay, so design thinking, what we see is it's really a problem-solving toolkit, and it's optimized for this right-hand column, which is the unknown unknowns, like really the open, white canvas, blue sky, whatever you want to use. It's a problem-solving toolkit that's optimized for that. Most of us have a toolkit that's optimized for the middle, which is what we've really honestly been learning probably since kindergarten, is how to do, really strong analytical thinking. And William & Mary is actually amazing at it. And to be good at this is hard, and it takes a long time. So it's not to diminish it or say one is better. It's just optimized for what we call the known unknowns. And essentially that's saying it's a problem that you know a little bit about, but you also have pieces that you don't know about. So a good example from business might be, I have a customer and I lost them. Okay, well, at least you know you lost them, and at least you know you want them back. Like your question might be, how do I get them back? That's good. So you know a little bit. You may not know how to get them back, but there are pieces of this challenge that you know, and there's pieces that you don't know. Typically, to kind of solve those, you're going to search through some data, sort through some, and then solve it. And you think through some things like this is a lot about planning and about using data and logic, proving what's best, and then also what most organizations, nonprofits, private sector, everybody, they're in the pursuit of control and stability. Any company that has been operating for decades knows how to do its core business well, and they're in the pursuit of controlling, stabilizing, and optimizing that, right? So playing in this right-hand column of the unknown unknowns feels really strange. And it's often because you need a new and different problem-solving toolkit for that arena. And that's where design thinking comes in. I'll tell you a little bit more about it, but really it's much more about experimentation and iteration and its pursuit of something new. It doesn't need to be new to the world, but it can be new to your customers, it can be new to you, it can be new to your stakeholders, your board, or whoever. That's a little bit about how clients kind of view it, and how we like to talk about it is it's not better or worse, it's just different and optimized for different things. So design thinking, we love to think about it in the sense of a 4-question approach, right? And question asking is a big piece of design thinking. So what y'all experienced with the brown and black shoes was this first question of what is. Like you are sitting and observing what is going on in your environment. And this can be every different stakeholder. You are just an open book. It's like, tell me what's going on with you. Tell me about what's hard for you. Tell me about what you're trying to do that you can't get done. It is sitting in people's world and really absorbing it from their point of view, not what you hope to hear or what you want to hear, or asking narrow questions. It's open-ended questions that's really kind of around a bigger question that you're trying to solve, which is that main question that you start with. And then you move into what if, and you notice there's like real divergent thinking, and it's the broadest one. That's just the part where you get to do brainstorming and ideation. But what's fun about it is so many people are like, well, I'm not creative, I'm not good at brainstorming, I'm not good at ideation. But the thing is, this what if question is answered based on what you've heard and listened and learned from in the what is. And everybody is creative when it comes to solving a problem for somebody else, right? Because you're going to feel that empathy of what they're feeling. And then your only job in what if is to say, gosh, if you were trying to fix this person's problem, what would you do? So that's that what if, and you're brainstorming, you're coming up with, here's some possibilities. The key and what feels so different about design thinking is that then you go and iterate again. You go back to the customer and you figure out what wows them. And you're saying, you know what, I heard you the first time. I thought about it a little bit. What do you think about these ideas? You're not going in to sell the one you like the best or like hope they pick the one that you brainstormed. It's really to be like, what do you think? And tell me how I can make it even better. So what wows is really, you're showing them things, not for them to pick the winner, but then to make it better. Your customer is who I'm talking about, the person who's using this end thing. And then what works is to say, I'm still in an iterative mindset as I think about how you've kind of given me some thought about, I think this is the right thing to do. That's where you're still tweaking and still iterating as you move forward. Now you see in this, a lot of what our company gets to do is merge design thinking and entrepreneurship. They're very similar. They're both very much rest on the same principles. But we found as they're used in the world is typically design thinking is a little bit more that upfront needs finding phase. And that entrepreneurship is a little bit more, okay, I have a need, I figured out this is a thing in the world, it's a problem that's worth solving. Now I'm going to really try and figure out how to solve it. So it's kind of a combination. We're not wedded to some of these terms, but we just wanted to share a little about how we think about them. There's lots of different frameworks and tools that we use. So this is a little bit about us. So I get to serve as CEO at a small innovation consulting firm. We're based in DC and have an office in San Francisco. There's just a few pictures of us. We are adorable, as you can tell. But seriously, we have a lot of fun, and we very much practice our guiding principles, which we take seriously and revisit every couple of years, too. And the collaboration is huge, and we're really good at virtual collaboration, which thank goodness we are at this point in time. But here's some of the firms that we've gotten a chance to use design thinking with over the years. And so as you can see, we're industry agnostic, so we serve nonprofits, we serve private sector, we serve the government a tiny bit, and then we also serve every different industry in there, as you can tell from this. We actually do mostly business to business, and that nonprofits fall into that category as well, too, as we're serving kind of holistic, we're serving bigger groups of people and more complex ecosystems than just a one-to-one relationship. But we practice this and are intentionally kind of broad in who we serve. So before I get started, if you see up in the right-hand corner, I'm going to tell you a little story about that swoosh up there and the time we got to work with Nike, which has been a while now. And that's also, as you can imagine, innovation space. We can't really tell our stories until things are kind of into fruition and into the world. But I'm picking Nike because it's an easy thing for most people to relate to as a case, and also because they were a really strong client. So those of you who are in consulting, and whether or not you end up inside the organization or as a consultant, if you're doing innovation, you are going to be persuading people to try some new tools to reach their goals, and you're going to be bringing people along to say, hey, let's try something new and that kind of thing, whether you're internal or outside. But they really were, they had a strong DNA inside their company for innovation and iteration, as you might imagine. But they were really good at making new shoes, right? No one does that better than Nike, no one markets it better than Nike. But what they were really trying to stretch into is what else can we do beyond just products? How do we move more into services? And a lot of organizations are thinking along those lines, whether they're a nonprofit or a private sector or the government. It's kind of shifting that mindset between I'm just selling a good and I'm just having a one-on-one reaction to how do I really form a relationship over time with someone. So Nike came to us and said, okay, how can we create a digital service that enables a better shoe purchasing experience for 8 to 12-year-olds and their parents? So most of you all are not in the age group of having 8 to 12-year-olds. You might have a brother or sister, and you might remember being 8 to 12-year-olds, but I can tell you were a pain in the butt to go shopping with. My kids are younger, but this is coming. I can already see it. But it's more to say that that's not fun, right? You're spending your whole Saturday schlepping around to Dick's Sporting Goods and everything else, and you're like, they don't have the right size, or your kid wants the Air Jordans and you don't want to spend that much money. So it's kind of a disaster, especially if you have multiple kids and they're all in different sizes and their feet are growing like crazy, right? And so they were saying, gosh, this is a pain point, right? And so how do we make this better? And so we work with them to kind of go through the design thinking process. So this is a question that we were really exploring, and I'll tell you about how we did it. So the first thing we tried to do is we sort of framed it as a venture, like framed it as a new thing that we were trying. So there's a business challenge here for them. And it didn't, nonprofits have their challenges too, but it's what is the organization trying to do? They wanted to have a better direct relationship with their customer. Right now, their goods were sold through stores, mostly not Nike stores. And so they wanted to have a better relationship and get to know them. And they thought, gosh, the subscription thing is really hot right now. Could we get in on that? Could we make shoes as a service? Could we do a shoe subscription? That no one had done that yet. And so they wanted to kind of try that. They were, or how well behaved they were, and young athletes, as they call them, changed quickly. And then also shoes were wasted. So Nike is really into sustainability, as you probably know, and they actually have already invested in a big capability in their headquarters to grind shoes up and make them into tennis courts and basketball courts. But only 7% of people utilize that service. There's a little bin in the stores where you can drop your shoes off to do that. No one knew about that, and most people aren't always going into stores anyway. So they wanted to have sustainability as part of this. Exactly, how design thinking usually starts. We're going out and we're asking what is. So we're going out and talking to moms and kids, and we're asking them, you know, hey, look at these pictures. Tell me if this describes your pain point. Tell me about what's going on in your world in terms of shoes. You see the right-hand corner, you'll probably all have this at home, is the like, yes, I'm going to hold on to my old shoes, right, and reuse them again at some point. And you're probably not, but they sit there in the garage for a while. If you're in an apartment, they're gone way early. But this is, you know, when we're talking about sustainability and the possibility of maybe a cyclical shoe subscription, it was like, well, what are people doing with their old shoes? Would they even think about sending them back to us? So we're having people take pictures of stuff in their homes, what they're doing with their old shoes. And then we come to the ideation portion, and we're really saying, okay, and we take ideation as both an art and a science, right? This isn't just loudest voice in the room and you throw your hand up too, but we have very methodical sort of trigger questions and processes we go to really stretch our thinking and serve our introverts because they're often overlooked in group brainstorming activities. And so we go through that process, and what we came up with was this high-level concept, right? And this took months, right? This took, you know, 3 months. So, but you can also do this really quickly. I mean, even if you only have a week, you can go out and talk to 10 people and then brainstorm too. But we ended up on this high-level concept. I was essentially saying, gosh, okay, for young athletes, we want to have a shoe subscription service, and it's going to give them, this is just a very normal value proposition. And to translate it for you nonprofit folks, it's exactly the same. Even if you're offering something as a nonprofit, it has to have value to somebody, and you have to find a way to do it different and to have things, to have it make sense for your organization too, that you can deliver it over time. But for them, they're saying, gosh, this gives my young athlete more control, and they can pick better online too, and offer more positive shoe experience with maybe better fit and a sustainability piece in this too. And for the parents, you know, a shoe subscription service would say, okay, this is convenient and easy, and my shoes just show up every 3 months, and I have confidence that the kids are wearing the right size and they're not in smaller or too big shoes, that kind of thing. So this is, and what's so fascinating here, which is why I have this slide in here, is this is an idea, right? It's a 30-second pitch. It's like when your friend turns to you, you know, in class or over dinner, it's like, I have this idea for a new business, or I have this idea for a new organization or a club or whatever the case may be. It's so easy at that point to skip over it, right? So Nike already has this value proposition. Every fiber in their body wants to just build this thing right now, right? Just like your friend's like, I want to start it right now. I'm going to make a website right now for my new idea. But what we try and say, and what's I think unique about Pure Insight in particular, is our job, it really comes in right now, is we want to extend that design thinking to say, okay, you have a hypothesis. You don't have a concept. You have a really good hypothesis. Let's go out and test it, and let's get confirming and disconfirming data. So what we did is we made sort of mock-up apps. We made what we call storyboards, which is basically a cartoon, and we went out and we asked people, what did we get right in here? What did we get wrong? Like, how would you use this? Do you think it's horrible? And literally with the storyboard that you see here, we gave people a pencil and like, X out the stuff that you don't think would be happening. And they tell the story. It doesn't come, as you see, there's no words here. And so they can kind of say, oh, is this the part where I get the shoe? And you're like, well, is that when you want to get the shoe? You tell me, right? And so we're really using these not to say, oh, I hope they really like it, but to say, where are we getting it wrong? Like, what's not working for you here? And we continue to do that. So you see in this picture here, a young athlete and their mom, I think their dad on the corner too, are literally going through, they have dots, you know, they're putting the dots on things that they like in this, and they have these sort of sketches that are like, oh, here's how it works. Like, you buy a shoe and then you reuse it and then you ship it back, and then they put dots and like, nope, would never do that, or yes, I love this part of it. So you're using these concepts to kind of generate ideas. And then we're trying to get what we call do data. So this, again, like if your friend has a business idea or you have a business idea, what's wonderful is it's one thing to go and ask everybody what they think, and they say, yeah, I love it. And it's another thing to get what we call do data. And that's when people sign up. It's when they click on something. It's behavior that they do on their own time without you around that show that they are interested. So one of the things we wanted to really test in this example is we really wanted to see, gosh, people said that they would return their old shoes. Will they do it? Sustainability is a big area where people, what they say and what they do is totally different sometimes. So we thought of, okay, let's see if people actually return. So we went, this is Mike who works at Pure Insight, or used to work at Pure Insight, and he's pretending to work at Nike. This is a Nike store. And what we're doing is we have not stood up the service yet. All we're saying is, let's just see if people who just come in and buy a pair of shoes will return it. So again, this is a great, cheap way to test something We have not built a service. We are just trying to test that one piece of it, is will people return it? And that was a big piece for Nike. They really wanted that sustainability piece in it. So instead of building the whole service and then realizing that people didn't want to return their shoe and then they wasted all that money and time, we just tested it up front before we did it. And that's a huge part of design thinking, is you're trying to de-risk the unknown, right, through things like this before you spend a lot of time and money. And even if that a lot of time and money is like 2 weeks and $1,000, that can be very material to, you know, a person or an entrepreneur, and not material to Nike, but if they have a similar type of range. So we're trying to see things, and we said, okay, great. So then people sent back their shoes, and we figured out how long does it take them? And then we asked them to check off why they returned it. So we're starting to understand the value and the drivers about what we're trying to, you know, some of the things we're trying to learn about that are necessary if Nike were to stand this up. We're also testing the business model. Do we think that people would want to get 2 shoes at a time every 3 months? What is this going to look like? And again, we're testing the business model, as you see in this picture, not on a big spreadsheet with all kinds of lines, but it's literally like, what are the behaviors that people need to do for us to be able to make money and enough money to keep this thing going? So again, with your nonprofits, you may not be trying to make revenue, but you need to somehow make this something new. You need to drive value that you're able to fund it, right? So whatever donors need to see to be able to fund this thing, you need to understand sort of how are we going to make this sustainable over time, too. Then we build a minimal viable experience, as we call. So see this website, it's ugly, right? Nike would never want this. So we were testing this off-brand, too, because Nike also has a problem where once they say, you know, their name, everybody wants to be a part of it. So we're actually trying to see if this is valuable without the name on it, too. So we ran Facebook ads to see if people click on things, and it took them to this ugly landing page where we're basically like, hey, you're an alpha test. Do you want to learn more? And you can see in the right-hand corner, these are all the shoes that are coming back. We're making this really scrappy, right? Remember, this is Nike. They have money. They could actually build this whole thing out if they wanted to, but they're trying to really test it cheaply to really understand to people, is this solving a problem for people? Later, we start, and we're still branding as Easy Kicks. There's no Nike logo in this at all still. And we're going out to malls to kind of understand families and how they might pay for this as a package, and a little bit more about the revenue model. And then finally, after we had a little bit more there, as I say, Nike bought or released out a tiny little warehouse in Portland, and we started running what we call an initial commercial version. So see how there's this iterative nature, like we're getting more and more higher fidelity as we go. We didn't just launch it and go full on out too. And now it's finally what we call spun back in the business. So they sort of spun out the idea. Again, it was all off brand, and then they brought it back in, and now it's a fully run program called Nike Adventure Club is the name they finally landed on too. Wow. But I just wanted to share a little example of a company that even with that money they have, they went through the design thinking process because it really helps them always anchor on how am I best going to, you know, serve my customer, right? And really make sure they're getting the value from it and really make something that's going to stand the test of time. So I talked for a lot, but I wanted to pause for questions, and I'll stop sharing, and then Sonia and I can chat a little bit.
Wow, that was an awesome presentation. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I love the Nike example, and it just, I mean, who would have known? Like if you had seen a booth like that in a mall, I know I wouldn't have, you know, looked twice and been like, oh my gosh, it's Nike. But that's exactly what they want.
They're trying to avoid it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, I just had a question. You reference this a lot, and thank you for bringing this up, but you know, Pure Insight, you know, serves nonprofits and corporate, you know, entities, and you mentioned a lot of the similarities. A lot of the grounding procedures are the same. Of you want to, you know, attract people, and you might not be trying to make money, but you're still trying to, you know, not push something, but find the need and find where you can fill that. Do you find that that's more prevalent in certain companies and businesses, or do you find, are there distinct differences, or what's your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, what I've found is leadership is really the factor that makes the difference with this type of work. Is a leadership team who has the vision to really want to push the boundary in what people are doing, no matter if it's private or nonprofit. So we work with the Good Samaritan Society, which is the largest nonprofit long-term care provider in the country. They serve the middle of the country. They build and operate nursing homes and assisted living homes, and guess what? No one wants to live in either one of those. Definitely don't want to live in them now. People want to age in place, right? And so for them, that was a bold vision, is to say, for 100 years, we have, built and occupied, tried to occupy these homes, and we are now shifting our model away to serve people what they want. Lots of nonprofits do that. We've been doing this one thing for a long time, but actually people are moving. We're working a lot with AARP, which is a big society for people who are 50 plus. Needs are changing constantly for them, and so they're really trying to shift. So nonprofits are in the same boat. But what's fun is to see the leaders are like, this is where we need to go, and then to use the tools like design thinking to really help them explore that newness. That's so foreign to them. They didn't know, what Good Samaritan Society knew how to do was like build a building, literally occupancy rate, and care for people in a home, in a setting like that. So for them to explore telehealth and sensors and it was really mind blowing. But their mission to serve their customers is what are their clients was really what pushed them into this. So it's fun to see nonprofits being just as innovative, and sometimes even more because their mission compels them to be that way. So to speak.
That's incredible. Very cool. Oh my gosh. We've had a lot of speakers this semester sort of toe that line or have interest in both sectors. So I know we have a lot of our members of our community who also are interested in that. So thank you so much for bringing that to light. I think another part of, when you were talking that I was really curious about was the whole stage when you go out and you validate, these assumptions and things like that, and go into people's homes. And I just find that so cool. And I was wondering, how do you do that in this kind of climate? I mean, are you figuring out new ways of doing that?
Yeah, what's great is that a lot of our business is B2B. So when I say that, I mean, we'll work with a big law firm whose clients are Google and Facebook. And so when we're working with them, we're talking to the general counsel of Google, who's a client of the law firm. Those people definitely don't want us up in their space, right? They want a quick conversation that's as easy as it is possible. Or if we work in a hospital setting, the patients might be, we can't talk to them directly. And then also the hospital administrators are like, we don't have time for all or physicians, right? So no one's like, cool, let me, I have tons of time to talk. They're busy. And so for this, honestly, the fact that we work with hard to reach people, not just in that B2C consumer goods setting, tell me more about your mascara or whatever. We're working, more with businesses. That's helped us be more virtual. And so with them, we actually use Miro as our favorite sort of whiteboard, online whiteboard, if you will, but there's lots of different tools out there. And so we'll put our stimulus up there, like that little sketch that I showed of the shoes. We'll put it in a Miro board and do a Zoom call just like this and have someone, if they're Sonia, tell me about, drag this little dot, or like one case we had a little car, and it's like drive the car and put the little road cones at the pieces of your journey that are hard to get through. And they're dragging it. And people, and again, this is Google, general counsel. And you're like, before the call, you're thinking in your head, are they really going to drag this cone over? Because, they're the general counsel of Google. They probably have other things they want to do. But they do. People naturally like playing games. And so it feels like a game to them. But if you ask them to kind of put their brain on speakerphone as they're feeling, as they're like driving their car and moving little things around, you're taking notes about what's going on in terms of their priorities and their roadblocks, and you're getting all this rich information that you would never get if you just sat down and been like, oh, tell me, what's on your mind, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. And so so the fact that we've been working with that clientele already pushed us into virtual. Sometimes it's hard to reach people, or we're doing an international project and we can't fly everywhere too. And you miss out on some of the contextual, being able to be in somebody's home or office or factory or whatever and see around them. But if you ask the right questions, it's pretty okay. And you can record it and go back, which is handy too. So,
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I didn't even think of that with more vulnerable populations who, aren't like, oh, I want to talk. I mean, just with that nursing home example, like I've volunteered in a lot of nursing homes and those kinds of settings. And people are not the most talkative there, and there are a lot of pressing issues. So, that's really insightful. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I have a million questions. But I guess I'm trying to think of the one. So I had another one, which was just, you know, have you used this skill set in your personal life, at home, you know, those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has helped me a ton. I mean, and honestly, we use it a lot on our business, right? So as a CEO, I mean, I'm thinking through a lot of these same questions for our team, and obviously thinking about it a lot right now and during COVID. And I think for me, it's really helped me run our business better, especially during a time like this. I mean, we really, you know, as I showed in that kind of graph, we've optimized for the unknown, and we are in it, right? This is it, you know, now is the time. And so I think in some cases, what's interesting about it, what we tell our clients a lot is, you know, you can't just sit in a boardroom or, you know, in a study room and like think that you have all the answers with you and your buddy, your friends, or, you know, in the case of a boardroom, your board. Going out and talking to people is the best way to understand. And right now, more than ever, because no white paper, industry report is going to be able to predict what's happening next for this. And so for us, it's really kind of become a critical skill set now. It's like, we don't know what's going on with our clients. The best thing we can do is really talk to them and be open-minded and then build things for them that they want. Because we're obviously trying to think about, gosh, what do people need right now? All of our services may not be relevant to everybody. And so how can we listen and make great new services for them too? So I think that's hugely important. And I think I'm a parent of young kids, and I think that's the ultimate experimentator, right? You're like, oh, that didn't work. You know, let me try this. Okay. But I think honestly, approaching anything, I've had friends think about it from a dating perspective or career switching perspective or parenting, or whatever the case may be, is there's just this notion of it doesn't always have to be right the first time. Just iterate on it, throw out a prototype, but label it a prototype so you don't feel as bad. I think many of us are taught to get it right the first time. And I think schools often teach us that, not necessarily William and Mary, but, you know, our high schools and stuff really get an A. You know, there's no time to like get a B and then get better. And so I think there's something really liberating about this toolkit. For me, it's like, I don't have to be right. I just need to be able to ask the right question and listen really well. And who can be right in this climate? I mean, I was saying that before COVID, but right, even when I was learning design thinking for the first time, it was in this era of incredible technology shifts. And I was sitting in business school and taking classes that were doing cases around, you know, Marriott versus Hilton. And I'm thinking, where is Marriott versus Airbnb or whatever else is happening? And so I'm like, I don't know how in the world, if you were CEO of Marriott, would you navigate Airbnb? When do you take them seriously? When do you get real about innovating? Not just beyond like a cooler new room or bedspread, but like really pushing yourself. And so that's really what drove me into this field, is to think there's so many aspects of my personal life and my professional life that are going to change drastically. And I'll never be smart enough. I'll never be right enough. But I can really, but as I joke about and actually did a TEDx talk about, it's, I don't know, but I know how to know. And I think that's really it's such a freeing mantra for me as somebody who's kind of more of a perfectionist growing up and more of a like, got to get it right and avoiding risk. So it's a little bit of how kind of personally the toolkit really spoke to me from a lot of different angles.
I love that. I mean, I think it can speak to so many William Mary students, and just, you know, so that's incredible. I know, and just, you know, applying for grad schools and, you know, everything that comes next. So it's very, very valuable just in terms of a mindset. Absolutely. And that also speaks to something we had an alumni founder series last week where our guest, Justin Schoonmaker, talked about how as an entrepreneur, like, or somebody with an entrepreneurial mindset, you have to be okay with going to sleep and feeling like, okay, there is more that I could have done today, or, you know, like what else? And you're not going to have that day of like, oh, I got everything done, like everything's good. And I was like, you know, you're laughing, you're like,
no, and it's hard. I mean, it's like, you know, when you're like, okay, I finished studying for this one, and then I finished writing that paper. Yeah, you know, you never, I mean, I think you learn and grow so fast too in a small business or as an entrepreneur. And I know it seems risky, but it's a really good experience to have, especially when you're younger, because you get to wear a lot of hats and you get to feel that feeling of being able to kind of juggle, multiple things. And I think as you become more and more of a leader, which, many of William & Mary students, most of them will, you only have more things added onto your plate. You could choose that maybe personally how much you add to your plate, but professionally, same thing. And so the more you can add on, the more you think, gosh, am I serving all these different things well enough? And your job is not to serve them at the level that you used to as you, get more senior. And that, so sometimes having that feeling early on helps you be more prepared for it, as you become more of a leader and juggle more things.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Natalie. This has been a great conversation.
It's been really fun. I know it'd be nice to do it in person, but thank you for providing the warmth of it anyway, just our chats beforehand too, and with how you're getting to help your fellow students. So I'm really excited to be part of this bigger William & Mary community and chat with all of you a little bit today. Sonia has my email, but it's Foley, Foley, @PeerInsight, and you see the logo PeerinSight. Drop me a line if you have any questions or you need anything from me. I'm happy to help in many capacities. So I wanted to give that, make sure it made space for that. Thank you, Sonia, for the chat today.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. Take care, okay?
Okay, you too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.